да го мртнеме поблиску, зашто многу е лошо кога удуспее во корников црна во сенката.
Каде поблиску?
Малку понавам, не.
Ако сакаш може и на сонце да ставам дека се проси.
Ај дојди в стајата што ми се почнам.
Тоа е тоа.
Готово?
А?
Со саундов не проверивме дали влага, не влага.
Дај. Ја овде добивам звук.
Добиваш?
Да.
Не, јас сум овде, со ова регулираш.
Сега не знам на зумов како се слуша. Кај ми е јакната бе, на очарите ништо не гледам.
Јакната негде ти ја видов скоро.
Ја безе.
Почитувани колеги, пријатели и соработници, почитувана Марија Ѓоргова, државен секретар во Министерството за култура и туризам, почитуван професор доктор Оливер Бакрески, декан на Филозофскиот факултет во Скопје, почитуван Јунус Дилбер, директор на Турскиот културен центар Јунус Емре. Во името на Националниот археолошки музеј ми представува особена чест што денес, како координатор на проектот Прометеј, заеднички одбележуваме уште еден значаен чекор во нашата посветеност кон заштитата, интерпретацијата и промоцијата на епиграфското културно наследство. Епиграфика non solum verba sunt, sed voces historiae. Овие гласови, сочувани во камен, бронза или мермер, ни говорат за универзалните човечки вредности, за стремежот кон меморијата, идентитетот и комуникацијата низ времето. Во свет во кој дигиталните технологии ја менуваат перцепцијата за културното искуство, овој проект ни овозможува да бидеме дел од современата трансформација на музејската и научната практика. Да не сме само чувари на наследството, туку и активни посредници меѓу науката и јавноста. Затоа, верувам дека преку оваа меѓународна и интердисциплинарна соработка, заеднички поставуваме основа за нови методолошки пристапи, иновативна едукација, траен диалог меѓу културите на Балканот и пошироко. Дозволете ми во оваа прилика да ја поздравам заложбата и посветеноста доктор Славица Бабамова во нејзината координација и реализација на сите програмски активности поврзани со проектот Прометеј. Со желби за плодна дискусија и инспиративна размена на идеи, ви посакувам успешна работа во следните неколку денови. Поради тоа што се работи за меѓународен проект, имаме многу гости од странство, дозволете ми да се обратам и на англиски јазик. Dear colleagues, friends and partners, On behalf of the National Archaeological Museum, it is my great honor to welcome you today as the coordinator in the Prometheus project, as we mark another important step in our shared commitment to the protection, interpretation and promotion of epigraphic cultural heritage. Epigraphica non solum verba sunt, sed voces historiae. These voices, preserved in stone, bronze or marble, speak to us of universal human values, of the desire for memory, identity and communication across time. In a world where digital technologies are reshaping our perception of cultural experience, Prometheus project enables us to be part of a contemporary transformation in both museological and scholarly practice, empowering us to act not only as guardians of heritage, but also as active mediators between research and the public. That is why I believe that through this international and interdisciplinary collaboration, we are collectively laying the foundation for new methodological approaches, innovative education, and a lasting dialogue between the cultures of the Balkans and beyond. Wishing you a fruitful discussion and an inspiring exchange of ideas. Дозволите ми да ја поканам државната секретарка во Министерството за култура и туризам, господја Марија Ѓоргова, да ве поздрави.
Манаскова, почитуван декан на Филозофскиот факултет господин Бакрески, почитувани организатори, учесници, експерти, дами и господа. Ми представува особена чест и задоволство во име на Министерството за култура и туризам да се отварањето на втората работилница во рамки на проектот Прометеј добива се поголемо внимание графското наследство и развој на публиката. Проектот Прометеј, кој е кофинансиран преку програмата Креативна Европа, представува исклучително позитивен пример за транснационална соработка во областа на дигиталната епиграфика и културата. Тој ги обединува музеите, универзитетите и истражувачките институти од регионот и пошироко и притоа отвара нови можности за користење на дигиталните технологии како мост помеѓу минатото и сегашноста. Македонија располага со исклучително богата културно-историско наследство. Од најраните траги на писменост до спомениците на култура од античкиот и римскиот период, секој надпис, секој символ, врежан во камен или бронза, е сведок на нашата историја, на вредностите, идентитетот и културниот континуитет на овие простори. Проектот Прометеј и денешната работилница имаат за цел не само да се продлабочи стручната соработка помеѓу археолозите, историчарите, лингвистите и музејските работници, туку и да ја отвори вратата кон пошироката публика, да ја направи епиграфиката пристапна, разбирлива и инспиративна за секој граѓанин. Како министерство со особено задоволство го поддржавме овој проект кој го прави епиграфското наследство подостапно и повидливо за различни публики, а воедно подинамично и поинклузивно. Веруваме дека ваквите иницијативи треба да бидат поттик и за другите културни и образовни институции во нашата земја, да се користат можностите што ги нуди програмата Креативна Европа со цел создавање одржливи, иновативни и меѓународни релевантни културни проекти. На сите учесници ви посакувам успешна и плодна работилница, нови знаења, идеи и соработки кои ќе продолжат да го носат огнот на Прометеј, символичното светло на знаењето и ќе го споделуваат и со пошироката јавност. Ви благодарам.
поканувам професор доктор Оливер Бакрески, декан на Филозофскиот факултет, да ве поздрави.
Добар ден и од мене. Почитувани гости, почитувана државен секретар во Министерството за култура и туризам, господја Марија Ѓоргова, почитувана директорка на Археолошкиот музеј на Македонија, господја Магдалена Манаскова, почитувана раководителка на Институтот за класични студии, професор доктор Елена Ѓукеска, драги професори, студенти, дами и господа. Ми представува особена чест и задоволство да се обратам денес пред ваков аудиториум за еден исклучителен и многу важен настан. Филозофскиот факултет, морам да нагласам дека години наназад во континуитет ги поддржува ваквите настани и тоа не значи дека само треба да се има еден поголем обшествен, активен однос, туку напротив, еден поголем антиципативен и партиципативен пристап кој ќе придонесе кон актуализација на исклучително важни прашања кои се во сферата на интересот и на Институтот за класични студии, и на Филозофскиот факултет, и секако и на нашата држава. Тоа само по себе говори како им се искува и како треба да им се приоѓа на прашањата и на проблемите кои се од заеднички интерес, а кои не имаме оврските трајно да се земеме. Дами и господа, епиграфските споменици се важен сегмент од културното наследство и непроценлив извор на информации за минатото. Тие ни даваат сведоштво за сите аспекти на човечката цивилизација и не возможуваат незаменлив увид на секојдневниот јавниот живот на луѓето, политиката, културата, религијата, уметноста и така натаму. Затоа тие се и корисна алатка за препознавање и за промовирање на човековите вредности кои се од исклучителен интерес. Овие вредности секогаш имаат потреба да се негуваат, особено во времења на интензивни технолошки развој и брзи геополитички промени. Преку проектот Прометеј, Филозофскиот факултет во Скопје за прв пат има можност да учествува во развивање на модели за активно ширење и развој на публиката и дисеминација на епиграфското културно наследство преку примена на дигитални алатки. Се надеваме дека нашата соработка со партнерите во проектот, Археолошкиот музеј на Република Македонија, Универзитетот Свети Климент Охридски во Софија, philosophy. Epigraphic monuments are an important part of cultural heritage and an invaluable source of information about the past. They provide testimony to all aspects of human civilization, of offering irreplaceable insight into the everyday and public life of people, politics, cultural, religion, art. That is why they are also a useful tool for recognizing and promoting universal human values. These values always need to be cherished and promoted, especially in times of rapid technological development and swift geopolitical change. Through the Prometheus project, the Faculty of Philosophy has for the first time the opportunity to participate in developing models for active audience engagement and the dissemination of epigraphic cultural heritage through the application of digital tools. We hope that our collaboration with the project partners, Archaeological Museum of the Republic of North Macedonia, the University of St. Clement Ohridski in Sofia, the Faculty of Philosophy at the University of Belgrade, and the Institute for Balkan Studies of the Serbian Academy of Science of Arts will continue to grow and develop. We also hope that this project will give rise to other collaborations as well. We eagerly look forward to sharing with the wider public the digital collection of incredible and materials with the main goals of the project and in being to making to rich epigraphic cultural heritage, written the Greek and Latin, preserved in the countries of the Balkan and Southeastern Europe, more accessible to everyone. I wish you a successful event. Thank you.
Со ова завршува официјалниот дел. Ве поканувам на работниот дел од конференцијата, каде што доктор Славица Бабамова ќе говори за досегашните активности поврзани со проектот Прометеј.
Good morning. My name is Dragana Nikolic. I'm a member of the Prometheus project team. And I would like to welcome you to the first official session of our second Prometheus workshop. And this morning we will begin with the presentation of the Prometheus project, which will be delivered by our coordinator, dear Slavica Babanova. And I give the word to Slavica.
Thank you, Dragana. I'm especially glad and happy and honored to have all of you here today. Thank you for your attendance, and especially thank you to all the Prometheus team, project team. I will start my presentation. Okay, let's first see the project summary. As already mentioned by previous speakers, we started with the idea about the universal values and comprehensive importance of epigraphic monuments, and we have been inspired with a lot of very successful practices of making digital corpora in last decades. This is the idea that united us. So we thought that uniting our forces, we can be very successful. The team is consists of museum institution as the coordinator, then 3 universities, 3 faculties of philosophy from the Balkans, the Faculty of Philosophy in Belgrade, Faculty of Philosophy in Sofia, and Faculty of Philosophy in Skopje. And last but not the least, the research institution. In our project team, the Institute for Balkan Studies at the Serbian Academy of Sciences and Arts. The main aim of the project is simply the inscriptions to become visible and to reach as much as possible audience. You will see what we do in this further presentation. The project is divided into 5 work packages, work packages. Work package 1 is about project management, administration and coordination, and lead beneficiary is the Archaeological Museum in Skopje. Main objectives of this work package are to ensure that the project meets its objective within the budget and scheduled timescales, to ensure that the project activities are executed in accordance with the work plan, to ensure that the implementation of project activities causes minimum impact on climate change and environment, and to ensure that project activities support and promote inclusion, diversity, and gender equality. We have 4 work tasks in the frames of this work package: planning and preparation, meetings for coordination, because we meet usually once a month, usually via the Zoom platform online, but local teams meet in some regular time spans to discuss different issues about the project. Then this work package has a task of preparation of reports, also monitoring, evaluation and quality control. We had 2 team meetings. The whole team met for the first kick-off meeting on 30th of January 2024, and the second team meeting, the second year meeting, was last week on the 25th of April 2025. Work package 2 is named Capacity Building. Lead beneficiary is Institute for Balkan Studies in the Serbian Academy of Sciences and Arts, and it has 2 objectives. First, to enhance the capacity of cultural, educational, and research institutions to use and develop digital and non-digital tools for epigraphic heritage documentation, representation, and dissemination. And then, to enhance the capacity of cultural, educational, and research institutions to use epigraphic heritage for audience development. We had two tasks in this work package. The first one was organization of online training workshop on digital epigraphy. And the second one is the organization of this second Prometheus workshop that we are starting now. The first workshop for digital epigraphy was held between 15th and 19th of April 2024. It was only online. And we will now show you and make you an update about the results of this workshop. First of all, we made, of course, a call for that one. We streamed it via Zoom and via YouTube. It was announced. We had about 30 participants, and I think before 14 and 40 attend this in each session of this workshop. It was about encoding inscriptions, but we also decided that it will be nice if we try to speak about other digital tools which are very useful for each epigraphist. The best thing from this workshop is that first, project team members gave their best, gave their lectures, but everything is now made available and open access online. First, on our YouTube channel, there is a special playlist made with the lectures from this workshop accordingly to being used for wider audience. And then Dragana made her great effort to make this tutorial on digital epigraphy, which is also available as document and also on our YouTube channel. Storytelling is something which is very important nowadays, and being one of the main aims of the project, inspired us to make an extension to the first workshop, and then we organized the second workshop in June 2024, which was dedicated to the storytelling. We named it Telling Tales from Stones, where we have invited not only our team members but also lecturers who generously shared their knowledge about storytelling and interpretation of cultural heritage in general. This is also something which is available anytime it has open access. This is the second workshop, and now we can go to the third work package, which is called Networking and Knowledge Sharing. The lead beneficiary is University of Belgrade, Faculty of Philosophy. The main objectives were to enhance cooperation and exchange of experience and knowledge in Greek and Roman epigraphy, digital epigraphy, cultural heritage management, representation and dissemination. And other objective is to share experience and knowledge in Greek and Roman digital epigraphy as tools for audience development. We had two work tasks. The first one is preparing and delivering lectures on Greek and Roman epigraphy, which is finished, I'm happy to say. And the other one is preparation and organization of symposium on Greek and Roman epigraphy, digital epigraphy, cultural heritage management, representation and dissemination, which will be held in Belgrade in person or online in the mid-September 2025. This work package started, the first of the tasks started with the lecture of Dr. Nikolai Sharankov. It was held on 10th of December 2024 at the Faculty of Philosophy in the University in Sofia. This is something which we usually do, as all the materials that are produced from the project, we are spreading them, sharing them on our social media, so we think that that is really covered very well. This is the announcement for Dr. Sharankov's lecture. He was very generous to share with us the 12th century epigraphic practice in Thrace, beginning from the 6th century BC up to the 6th century AD. He illustrated how numerous Greek and Latin inscriptions provided valuable insights into the levels of literacy, educational systems, and craftsmanship prevalent in the region. And furthermore, the lecture addressed the methods employed by stonecutters in the preparation, framing, and refinement of inscriptions, while also offering a critical analysis on how authors and patrons sought to exhibit their cultural sophistication through the use of verse inscriptions. The second lecture was held by Professor Vojin Nedeljković at the Faculty of Philosophy at the University in Belgrade. It was held on 14th of March 2025. The title was very interesting, The Sad Fate of a Peaceful Citizen. That was actually a comment, a new reading of a tombstone in the inscriptions of Mysia Superior, Volume 4, number 39. He explored a fragmented epitaph from the Roman city of Naissus, written in a unique blend of Latin prose and verse. Through this careful analysis, he offered fascinating insights into the Latin language, Roman epigraphy, and social history. His presentation demonstrated how a unique approach to reading this fragmented epitaph helped clarify its context, provided compelling parallels with similar cases in Roman epigraphy, and offered valuable insights into Roman metrics and the chromaticum as a distinctive occurrence in epitaphs. The third lecture was held last week at the Faculty of Philosophy at the University of Skopje. Work package were to create a digital collection of epigraphic monuments from Republic of Bulgaria, Republic of Serbia, and Republic of North Macedonia, and to create digital tools for epigraphic heritage representation and dissemination. I will not bother with reading all these three tasks, because the first task was design and development of project website. Then the second one was digitization of Greek and Roman inscriptions, and the third one was preparation of digital manual and auxiliary digital resources. I have to tell you that we are doing well, but we are somewhere in the middle of this second task. So we are very happy to show you the home page of the Project Prometheus website, which was created with all the menus that you can maybe see on this screenshot. I'm not sure if the picture is not blurred, but anyway, you can see the menus. This is the home page. And what is one of our main tasks in the whole project is that we will have to work on the collection of 30 epigraphic monuments, inscriptions from 3 countries. Each country will give 10 inscriptions. And this is what we are doing now, because we, after that long meetings that we had, after long discussions, brainstormings and so on, we decided that we will have to pick up universal values which are still active, still values for modern people, which are also European human values, and that we will try to find inscriptions in each country which will support and simply illustrate this. So, telling stories is the second menu which will be connected to this collection of inscriptions. These are or domains or what we work on now, actually in the moment, is also the encoding of the inscriptions is in process. And then we will, you see the menu for the manual, which will be delivered until the end of this year. We will have indices like in every normal epigraphic corpus. This is what we decided, that the indices will follow the methodology of epigraphic corpora index. We have information or a tab about the project. Events. The main communication and dissemination goals are to promote Project Prometheus content, activities, outcomes and objectives, to encourage participation in our activities, especially in capacity building and in knowledge sharing, then spread knowledge about digital epigraphy, digital humanities in general, to encourage the use of and exploitation of Prometheus outcomes from appreciation, study, research, and so on, care and management of cultural heritage. Also increase success and active engagement of different groups of audience with the local cultural heritage, to incite and stimulate the interest in the work of the institutions in the Prometheus project partners countries, to raise public awareness about the universal values epigraphic monuments share, and to raise public awareness about the importance of cultural heritage for human progress and development. These are our target groups and audiences. Of course, first we address to expert audience because we always have useful exchange of ideas. Then digital epigraphy and cultural heritage project communities and hubs, professional societies and associations. We address to tourism industry, to the policymakers, ministries and so on, to primary and secondary school teachers, to students and to the general non-expert audience. Our communication channels and dissemination tools is the project website of partner institutions. We produce newsletters which are edited quarterly each year. We have mailing lists which are updated very currently. Social media profiles on Facebook, Instagram and X, Twitter. And of course our so many times mentioned today YouTube channel. If anyone from the coordinators team would like to add something, I will invite him or her to come here and share his thoughts and ideas with us.
Yes, my name is Dimitar Iliev from the University of Sofia. We're heavily engaged into the building of the website, which is one of the main tasks of the project. And we're currently organizing between our three countries based on the expert network that we have built. So far, first the technical work on the digitization of epigraphic monuments, which is really a challenging task, but this is the smaller one. The bigger one is the biggest challenge is actually to do the storytelling, which will present in an engaging and popular and accessible way, which will give information to the general audience about the epigraphic monuments, all they have to tell us, which is relevant today for ourselves, for our societies, and for the values that we have and that we should build. And we're discussing to go into several directions. For example, organizing presentations for people in the educational system, for school pupils from the gymnasia, for maybe university students to do a series of visits and present some epigraphic monuments before them, and maybe challenge them to say what is provoking their interest, and maybe write some short stories based on some basic information that we have prepared for them and that we are currently preparing. For example, what is the province of Macedonia or Mysia Inferior, or what is Stobi, Escus, and who can be a dispensator in a Roman province, and so on and so forth, or how verse inscriptions are made in antiquity. So very, very general thing. Another thing is that we are trying to engage people who are writing, for example, who are writing in newspapers or even creative literature, and to see if they could engage in some experimental storytelling for us after exchanging some information with them to share the background of these inscriptions. This will be at least an experiment to see how people who are generally interested in culture and heritage, what they can grasp, what they can understand of these monuments when presented with some basic information, what can they derive from there. And yeah, probably something good will come out with this. I really hope so. It is very interesting. I hope it will be exciting in many ways. And as far as I understood here, the colleagues in Macedonia are also preparing some kind of questionnaires for the general public. Okay, if you see these monuments, what are the main questions that you ask yourself? What would you like to know more? And I'm very eager to learn what are the outcomes of these questionnaires, to see what the general public understands from these inscriptions and what could really provoke their interest, because we as specialists have many background knowledge which we often take for granted, but it's not for the people who are not deeply into this. And also maybe there are some things which might be interesting that we have not expected. For us, maybe one thing is interesting, for the general public, completely other stuff. So yeah, this is what I'd like to add.
Thank you, Dimitar, and thank you, Slavica, for this very detailed overview of our project. We really enjoyed. So I would invite you now for a coffee break, after which we will continue with our morning session, and again with Slavica and Professor Vojna Dedkovic. So we have some 15, 20 minutes for coffee break. 15.
Мисля какво мога да направя, но наистина не е много.
Saying a kind of the statement. I just added it because we had this first workshop. We had it was a
два, 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 два.
New audience development, but as a museum worker, I always have to keep an eye on the history and on the traditional ways of working with epigraphic monuments in general. Dobra. So, we are here in this structure. Everybody is amazed when entering the inn. And I have to say that Curcium Lian and the Scopia Lapidarium are inseparably connected for over a century now. This is a building of profane Oriental architecture and was built around the middle of the 16th century. The exact year of construction is not known because the inscription plate, just one note about the importance of epigraphic monuments, that was placed at the main entrance of the inn is now lost, so we are not sure about the exact year of building of the structure. The original function of the buildings, inns or caravansarais in Turkish, were for accommodation or overnight stay for merchants and travelers. When it existed as an inn from the second half of the 16th century until the middle or the second half of the 19th century, the main part, this one here, housed guests, and on the other back part were the stables, warehouses, and other auxiliary economic rooms where the animals and servants were housed. We will take a walk in this part later. In the period between 1921 and 1924, several enthusiastic scientists, members of the Skopje Scientific Society, began collecting ancient inscriptions in Greek and Latin, and stone sculptures and reliefs, as well as architectural elements here in Kuršumlian. They began to address priests, teachers, civil population, communities throughout all Macedonian cities and villages, and of course the authorities, to immediately inform them if there were any antiquities in their vicinity, or as we still say to the villagers, if they find some stone with letters or with a picture, in order to immediately, that very day, to transport them to Kuršumlian in Skopje. Thus began the transfer and collection of stone monuments in Kuršumlian, and that collection for Dr. Radoslav Grujic became the initial motivation to establish the Historical Archaeological Museum in Skopje. The museum was officially founded on the 1st of April 1924, thus laying the fundament of the museum work in Macedonia. According to the analysis of the Archaeological Museum, the collection of monuments intensified in the period between 1926 and 1934, when Nikola Vulic, Milovan Kokic, and Miodrag Grbic conducted surveys and collected all the finds on the surface, including those from the most distant and difficult to reach villages in Kuršumlian here. Those were mostly tombstones, votive and grave area, statues and statuettes, which were found outside the archaeological context. Just an example, they were built sometimes into the village fountains, as this one from the village of Rosoman. The picture on the right side is in this room just next to us, still kept here. Or they collected the inscriptions which were just simply laying in the courtyards of the churches, of the private houses in the villages, and so on. In that way, the museum received a lot of surface finds of inscriptions and stone sculptures from north to south and from west to east in the country, but especially from the region of Pelagonia, the surroundings of the city of Veles, and from the Tikvash plain. This left picture illustrates the surface findings of these big, large Herculaneum type statues from the ancient city of Stibera. And on the right picture, there is the old, let's say so, entrance in Kuršumlian. They were a symbol of the entrance in the structure for many years. In the period of 1926 to 1930, several hundred stone monuments were brought to Kuršumlian in carts, which still make up the majority of the collection. At that time, in 1927, was opened the first museum inventory book in Macedonia. Number 1 was given to the gravestone from Veles, which is still kept here in the stable of Kuršumlian. The 1930s marked the first exhibition of this collection in both courtyards, the main building here in this one, and in the back courtyard. So they were for the first time made visible to the wider public. In 1941, the museum was renamed as National Museum in Skopje, and the collection was under the authority of Ivan Venedikov. And in the period from 1942 to 1944, Dimce Koca, later a director of the Archaeological Museum, was Venedikov's assistant. After the World War II, the establishment of the Macedonian government, Burka Dragojević Josifovska began the painstaking work of systemizing the collection. During this period, she continued to record the stone monuments in the first inventory book of the museum, which was in use until the beginning of the computer era and the digitalization of the museum documentation. The basic data for each object is written in meticulous handwriting, starting with the round sculptures, then the reliefs without inscriptions, then the tombstones in Latin, then tombstones in Greek, and finally she put the votifare. Considering that Josifovska also conducted archaeological excavations, the collection has been enriched with finds from Isar Marvinci, from Skopje and its surroundings, of course, from Desgalopate, etc. In 1952, after a field tour in the Prilep village of Čepigovo, it was decided to begin archaeological excavations in the ancient city of Stibera, which were carried out in 1953. Several statues and inscriptions had already been transferred to Kuršumlian by Vulić even before 1931, including a decree of the Council of the Riopos, known and published in 1862. In the archaeological campaign of 1953, two buildings were excavated, the Gymnasium and the Temple of Tyche, with several statues of women and men. Several pedestals for statues were found in situ, and the most famous finds, which we will see in the museum in the afternoon, were the beasts of our Titus Flavius Orestes and Titus Flavius Philoxenus. The archaeological material was connected for the first time to the previously brought statues and inscriptions from Stibera as accidental finds by Nikola Vulić, and the history of city gradually began to merge into a single whole. All of them make a rarely desired whole in the lapidaria in the world. And please understand this story as a teaser for our tomorrow route to Stibera, where we will discuss a lot of different aspects of presenting this kind of epigraphic material. The systematized museum collection and the new exclusive finds from Stibera were the impetus for the stables of Kuršumlian to be adapted into a lapidarium, and it was officially opened in the 2nd of August 1955. Borka Josifovska, of course, was the author of the exhibition, and also she wrote a guide to the lapidarium. The concept of this exhibition was divided into sections. There was a section for gravestones, for votive monuments, and of course there were sections for some of the cities as Stibera, Skopje, Herakleia, Linkestis, and that was it. Unfortunately, the earthquake in Skopje in 1963, after 8 years of existence of the lapidarium in the stable of the inn, damaged in a really great level the lapidarium. It was never again reopened and remained closed for the public eye for many, many, many years. In 2001, as is stated in this newspaper, after 46 years, a new so-called lapidarium was opened here in this part of the inn, and the monuments were in the rooms following regional and chronological criteria regarding the exhibition. only 136 monuments were exhibited. I'm telling only 100 and so, because the total number of monuments and objects in the collection is something above 600. The concept included several monuments from the same region in the same period for each room. This is actually the corridor where we are sitting now, this picture with these statues and small reliefs. Sorry. But this exhibition also didn't last for long because Macedonian government in 2011 decided that a new archaeological museum should be located in the center of the capital at the bank of the Axios River. So the actual situation is that we have a permanent exhibition in the museum building at the center of the city, and Kurshum Lian will possibly have a new exhibition again in the stable in the back, but we will make a tour after this presentation and we will discuss that where the inscription lay in the meanwhile. The methodology of working on stone monuments, of course, considers service. These are Vulicic's publication in the edition of Spomenik of Serbian Royal Academy. He conducted service from 1926 to the beginning of the World War II. Then two distinguished classical philologists work in the museum, Borka Josifovska, of course, and Apostol Keramichiev, who made a lot of service in the eastern part of the country. You all know, and Professor Nedeljković will discuss some inscriptions from Borka Josifovska's volume of the inscriptions of Mysia Superior. Then speaking about additions in corpora, the inscriptions from Stobi were edited, taking one part of the collection originating from Stobi, of course. And then, as you all know, big part of the collection is edited in Inscriptiones Graecae volumen decimum, Inscriptiones Macedoniae septentrionalis, pars secunda, fasciculi primus and secundus. Surveys and revisions for both fascicles were made accordingly. And as a result, I don't see Goran where he is. As a result of implementing this methodology, Archaeological Museum, which is a central archaeological museum in the country, now has a considerable collection of quizzes. Here, I would like to humbly acknowledge to Professor Halov for his extremely dedicated work on the edition of the inscriptions of ancient Macedonia, and thank him a lot about guiding me to my professional path, always being willing to share the service, to share all the problems, all the dilemmas, and so on. Thank you once again here. So this was maybe not so interesting part when we speak about dissemination or delivering something to the more general audience. But I think that these are the methods that we always have to consider and never lose, because museum work, especially with stone monuments, has really many challenges. The work is so much complex. I'm going just to show you, because we are going to see the stable. These are the pictures of the situation in 2017. This is how we started, and you will see the situation now. A lot of people, a lot of enthusiasm is needed, and a lot of love for the work they are doing. It's not simple at all. They have to be focused, that they have to be always good willing, not having a bad day, and so on and so on. Sometimes we have pretty dangerous situations. And now what I would like to share with you is, because the time runs, we will have to make this walk. I will just present one, let's call it small collection of inscriptions from this collection. What makes me very enthusiastic about are the veteran inscriptions of the Roman legions. This one is among the earliest inscriptions from the whole colony of Skupi. Borka Josifovska dated it in the 70th years of the 1st century. Of course, it belonged to one of the necropolises of Skupi, sorry. If you want, we can discuss it later, because I really want the walk through the inn to be a little bit longer. What I wanted to note here is that Colonia Flavia Scupinorum was found as a Flavian, of course, colony, was founded by the veterans of the 4th, 5th Macedonian Legion and the 7th Claudian Legion. Something which is interesting here, that this one was, the veterans was from Luco. I just wanted to note in these inscriptions, the places where all the veterans came from and just decided after the finishing of their honesta mission to settle here in Skupi. The gravestone of Marcus Octavius Valens is here in one of the rooms in the inn. He was, of course, by his origin from Stobi. Lucius Apuleius Valens is written in his as his domo Berua. We don't know if Berua is one of the cities in the North Italy or just a stonecutter's mistake about the Macedonian city of Beroia. I mean, if we discuss, we can discuss a lot of aspects, but that was my idea. This is what I wanted to show you. Veritus, another hometown in these inscriptions. We have one veteranus of the 7th Claudian Legion coming from Salonae. This one from Stobi, of a soldier of the 7th Claudian Legion. According to the text of the inscription, I suppose that he was originating from Stobi and went back after his mission. And this is, of course, a testimony about the presence of other Roman legion. This is Fort Scythian Legion present in Stobi. This one is still on this place in Stobi, and I suppose it will still be left there after the process of conservation. This one is also a veteran of the Legio Forta Scythica, but he was a Domo Corduba, as we see on the inscription. And this one you will also see in the museum is from Stobi. This was also a soldier of the 4th Scythian Legion, but settled in Stobi, and obviously he had his family there. He adopted Greek language, which was prevailing in Stobi. And since this is not a conference, but a workshop, we can discuss all these texts if you want later. The city of Pelagonia is still not found and not identified in the field, but is testified, let's say, here, because this one, Antonius Marius, was originating from Pelagonia. These were all settled in the colony of Skupi. And this one was put here because we wanted to show some other, not only immigrations and this mixed population in the Roman Empire. In this concrete case, the colony of Skupi. I wanted to go further with what we as a team discussed, as I mentioned in the presentation of a project, knowing the inscriptions from the Roman period. It's always something like love and family and love is the first value that we will discuss in this project and in the website, in the collection of the inscriptions. So this is why I prepared a collection of gravestones that manage with some family ties and show a lot of love in the text. But I suggest that we take the tour, just not taking your time, because the inscriptions are here. We can stand in front of them and discuss, if you agree. Okay.
Thank you, Slavica. This was really interesting. And it reminds us that all the work that we do on public engagement and modern technologies do have to be based on real work, and we have to begin from the stone, from the science, and then build from there. So thank you.
I underestimate the museum work, the keeping of inscriptions, caring about the weather condition, caring about the space, about weather conditions, about how carefully will you handle them, and so on and so on. It was my idea.
Many thanks. If I may suggest, because we have questions planned after the two lectures, if you have questions for Slavica, please save it for later, and then we can do it afterwards when visiting the monuments.
Let's start the tour now.
Yeah, okay. So now I invite Professor Vojin Nedeljković. Oh, okay. The
Are we going to make the tour now?
Okay. Okay. So, all right. We'll have the tour now and the questions for Slavica, and afterwards we'll hear another presentation from Professor Nedeljković.
Starting definitely there.
Ne vidim ovdje kurs uopšte. Lepa sam. Da nešto... Aha, ne radi ovaj. Aha, dobro, hvala. Sada mu stavim full screen. Da. Neki. Ne znam šta je Voji rekao. Sad, bilo bi dobro da... Sad, bilo bi ok. Šta mi Vojin reče da ja sedim sad ovdje, jel? Pa nisam mogla... Da tako, sad ćemo da vidimo. Kaži, kaži. Ste da vam namestim vodu tamo. Hello. Okay, we return to the last segment of our morning session. Professor Vojin Nedeljković will deliver the presentation under the title Latin Philology and Inscriptions, Some Practical Examples.
Is my, yes, it's working. Thank you. I intend to show you a small selection of Roman epitaphs from Scupi. As already mentioned by Slavica Babamova, volume 6 of the IMS, Inscriptions of Upper Mesia, contains all those inscriptions and many more. If you are not familiar with the volume, it's here and you'll be able to inspect it after my talk. Two of the inscriptions I will show you are actually here, so you'll also be able to see the stones and review them if you wish. Before I proceed to the inscriptions, I need to say something about my title. Latin philology and the inscriptions. Well, one may reasonably argue that Latin inscriptions plus philology equals Latin epigraphy, because philology is all about editing and interpreting texts, and epigraphs are just one special case of philologic research. So in this sense, philology would simply include epigraphy. In another sense, however, one may argue the contrary. Epigraphy, as a source of historical knowledge, uses various methods, some of which pertain to philology, while others do not. So in this sense, epigraphy could include philology. I myself am a philologist and I am not an epigraphist, although I do sometimes work on inscriptional texts. So what I feel is that between the epigraphist and the philologist, there is usually a difference nowadays. They seem to have different priorities and often diverging interests. The epigraphist looks for persons, for careers. He does prosopography. He also looks for groups, either ethnic or religious or professional or other groups. He looks into society, looking for facts about society and, of course, historical events. When a philologist reads inscriptions, he often thinks in terms of language. The specific vocabulary, etc. We call the epigraphic idiom. He also looks for traits of vulgar Latin, or to be more modern, substandard Latin, substandard language. And in the field of interest, he may look for some subtlety writing, which is known to be present in private inscriptions. He looks for the collision between the individual and the conventional especially in the epitaphs. And he may also look nowadays for elements to base his storytelling on. So the first stone I will show you on photographs is there in the courtyard. The photograph on the right is the one Slavica kindly sent me about a week ago. On the left, you can see a photograph made almost a century ago. Obviously, the stone we have today on the right is approximately half the one Nikola Vulic saw and published in 1948. Fortunately, the inscription itself has remained almost intact. Now, in IMS 6, in this volume, the photograph seems to combine a newly taken shot of the mutilated stone with a clipping of Vulic's photo that shows the now lost lower left part of the inscription. And then the reading in IMS 6 recognizes the loss. You see this accent in line, here, in line 11, where the loss is recognized, even though no mention whatsoever is made of the facts I've just told you. As for the inscription, in its first part, it runs very smoothly. Aphrodisia dixit annis quadraginta tribus exita est, numerius vixit annis sexaginta ixitus est. So the names Aphrodisia, numerius, and the lifespans of it's a woman and a man. But now what comes next in lines 8 to 10 seems to blur the picture somewhat. At first sight, the dedicator, Numerius, the man, must still be alive at the time the gravestone was erected. And stand, which is in line 6, Sexaginta. Yeah, no, thank you. It's here. His lifespan then has to be a later addition, insertion. And this is exactly the thought of the editor of IMS 6, who was Morka Dragojević-Josifovska. However, this epigraph does not quite follow the usual disposition of data. I'll give another example. It's from IMS 1, from Belgrade, that is. Elie, a woman. Vixit annis quadragintaquinque, 45 years of age. Aurelius Dibalus, a man. Conjugi, wife. Et Aurelius Lucilius, another man. Matri benemerenti, to his beloved mother. Et sibi, for themselves, vivi posunt, made while still alive. So this is the notorious vivus formula. And this formula is surely to be expected here too. Something like numerius conjugi et sibi vivus posuit. Less so the information on Numerius' lifespan, because this usually remains unnoted in self-dedications. Moreover, this sentence, sibi et conjugi posuit Numerius, awkwardly repeats the name. And I hope you can see that on the photo, and is awkwardly carved in stone. See line 10. The size and position in letters in line 10 shows the absence of even a minimal design, what we call the ordinatio. All we have is 4 letters here. They are of smaller size and they occupy only the right end of the line. This certainly looks like a hay job. It could be that this is commissioned by the inheritor of Numerius, who for some reason decided not to have himself mentioned in the inscription. That would be something like Titius Heres ex testamento posuit. But rather have the testate presented as the dedicator. The respective instruction not reaching the stonecutter before the very last moment. So this is my very far-fetched hypothesis. It's the best I can think of. At any rate, I think that the text and the look of this inscription needs explanation. It does not run smoothly and it does not look all right. Another interesting thing is the final formula, exunt. There's another instance of it in Latin, in Istria. So it's Scythia Minor. It says, ave viator et vale exunt. On the face of it, it could mean that's it. That's all there is to say. That's all I have to tell you. It seems, though, that the Latin formula was adopted from Greek epitaphs, which have tafta. There's one in IMS1 in Belgrade with tafta, and according to the editor of IMS1, which was the late Professor Tusaric, relating Louis Robert, this would be the short for Ovios tafta. This is it. Here's what life ends up being. Here's what life sums up to. That's all, folks. My other example is an inscription that we won't be able to see here. It was first published by Borka Josifovska in IMS6. It has no previous publication. And we see it's heavily fragmented. What seems the clearest part is maybe line 1, primo abortavit masculum, but then very probably infantem. And then this vicesimo, which is an ordinal numeral. Everything else, despite the conservation of some words, doesn't really yield sense. This inscription was reproduced in Carmina Latina Epigraphica Mesiae. This is a small collection of verse inscriptions, particularly from the 2 Mesias, made by 2 Italian scholars some, I think, 15 years ago. It's Paolo Coguzzi and Maria Splendorio Coguzzi. So they read the inscription based on the photograph from the IMS-6. It's what you see here, with some differences. One is in line 2. Sedem te luce dedita somno. So that was an obvious blunder in IMS-6. There are 2 more letters here, and it's obvious here, there. So it's a correction. And in line 5, set cedula, it's again something more than in IMS-6. It's probably what they saw here. This part they thought to be S-E-T rather than set. And they thought this was a Carmen and that it was composed in iambic verse, versificazione iambica. Now, the most salient feature of this epigraph may be the use of the word abortare. It means miscarry. This is an item of some scarcity. Its only attestation between late Latin actually is a single one in Varro. In subsequent times, it came to be felt as a vulgar word, in opposition to the correct Latin, abortum facere. This is what Donatus tells us in his commentary on Terence. So this occurrence of abortare should be added to those that were known to the editors of the Thesaurus Linguae Latinae who published the article on abortare back in 19,000. The editor of IMS-6 viewed this as an epitaph emanating from a mother overwhelmed by her destiny's cruel blows. This is my translation for French, so forgive both my French and my English. The mother then would be the dedicant. Cugusi and Splendorio Cugusi did not question this, and none of the editors ever ventured to look for the deceased. It should, however, be observed that in line 1 there is no necessity to read abortavit instead of the simple abortavi. The verb in the first person singular is, of course, a feature of the numerous epitaphs that adopt the first person strategy. That is, make the deceased talk to the reader. The natural reading of IMS 164 would then be the one that identifies the woman talking of herself as the deceased and telling us that sometime in her life she lost a male baby through miscarriage. At line 4, the editor of IMS-6 proposed vicesimo nato, which means to her 20th son. This is not a very convincing restitution. One may rather think of vicesimo natale or vicesimo natali on her or his 20th birthday. This would be the indication of the age of either the deceased herself or a member of her family, the latter being possible in view of primo in line 1, primo abortavit. So she first lost a baby and then presumably took another blow of destiny at a later time. Noting the N in Vitense, edits of IMS cited another epigraphic example from today. The search for such examples is much easier, due primarily to Bela Adamic's database of language features in Latin inscriptions, which is publicly available. So the epenthesis of this type, an S for S after a long vowel, can be traced back to early Latin. It's very well attested in ordinal numerals and isn't really a remarkable thing to find. The poor state of preservation of this inscription makes it difficult to assess the metricity or otherwise of this epitaph. Although Kuguzi and Kuguzi mention iambic versification, strips of texts like Dedita somno in line 2 or Conteperat in line 3 may very well scan as dactyl. And there is a general probability that the epitaph was a commaticum, that in an inscription made up of phrases taken from or imitating high poetry. Their combination resulting, though, in no consistent piece of versified text. Now, to an inscription that is right there. I have already taken a photo of it. What I was interested in half an hour ago is whether there are any out here and first published this description seem to see. In later editions, nothing appears there. So on the left, you see the facsimile or the drawing really made by Arthur Evans as a young man. And then on the right, you can see practically the reproduction of what he gave in volume 3 of CIL by Domaszewski. This is the Turkish name of the city of Skopje, Üsküp. So this is what Evans gave, and then this is what Domaszewski said, frustra quisivi. The inscription isn't lost. Nikola Vulic had it in 1931, I think, in Spomenik. And this here is the photo that again Slavica made and sent. This is what IMS 6 offers. Tranquilla per annos, emula quincuntis forma seni pidio. So let's begin from the ending of lines 2 and 3 together, scan quite correctly as a dactylic pentameter. Emula quincuntis forma seni pidio. It's totally correct. What it seems to mean is this, and an appearance forma that rivaled in every respect the old man of Pylos, the appearance of the old man of Pylos. The old man of Pylos being obviously Nestor from the Iliad. What line 1 contains is expectedly the ending, that is the last 2.5 feet of an hexameter. Tranquilla per annos. Peaceful through the years. Clearly, this was an elegiac couplet. The last part of the inscription contained the 3.5 dactylic feet that came before the Cesura semi-septenaria. The general sense appeared to have been that the deceased had lived a peaceful life. By way of an example, we may supply vita fuit, then 2 or 3 syllables, multos tranquilla per annus. So those 2 or 3 syllables, which I leave empty, presumably held the dead man's name in the dative. Why in the dative? Because he had a peaceful life, vita illi tranquilla fuit. This would mean that the extant fragment was preceded by 1 line of text, now lost, just 1 line. According to the editor of IMS 6, it is probable that this stone was part of a small mausoleum. If so, our elegiac couplet itself would have been something of an amplification, free of the necessity to provide any information. With this in view, because it could have been combined with an epitaph in either prose or verse containing the full names of the deceased and the dedicators and other data. With this in view, then, even a simple deixis would do to refer to the deceased here in the last part of the hexameter. So restitutions like in vita fuit multos or contigituic vita in numeros or contigituic etas multos become possible for the last part of the hexameter. The desire to impress lies behind the striking comparison of the deceased with the old man of Pylos in the domain of, this is important, in the domain of physical appearance. The obvious reminiscence is to the Iliad. There rose the gracious, clear-voiced orator of the Pylians. From his tongue words flowed sweeter than honey. 2 generations of mortal men had passed away in his lifetime, who had been born and reared with him before in sacred Pylos, and now he ruled over the 3rd. In these lines, Homer emphasizes Nestor's esteemed position among the Achaeans. His eloquence and wisdom are object of admiration, and the mention of 2 generations passing in his lifetime underscores his venerable age and the respect he commands. But all this does not amount to describing Nestor as handsome, which seems to be the case in our epitaph. There is really no way around taking the Latin forma in its usual sense, to say that a man's forma rivals with another's is tantamount to calling him as handsome as the other one. A closer parallel is found on the Latin side in Statius Silvae, where the poet says of his deceased father, ora super crestus pilis aenis, ora quer regis dulici speciemque, surpassing the eloquence of the old men of Pylos and the eloquence of the Dulichian king, as well as his or their looks. The word species here clearly conveys the same idea as forma in our epitaph. But the flow of the sentence makes it difficult to know whether speciemque applies to both Nestor and Ulysses, or to Ulysses alone. Indeed, the term itself is critically doubtful. In a recent edition of Silvae 5, the sentence ends at Duliki, and there follows a conjecture which eliminates speciemque from the text. Moreover, Pili Senis 2 is one of two variant readings, the other being Pili Gregis, plus the conjectures Pili Dulcis, Regis Pili, emitted by modern scholars. So obviously the appearance of Saint Expelius and his forma in this epitaph may be of interest to this question. And now, all right. I intend to show you this for just a couple of moments. This too is interesting, but I wouldn't dwell long on this. It's a smooth inscription with two nice features. Publius Aelius Filius, Publius Aelius Publi Filius Posidonianus, so a man. Vixit annos 16, so a very young man. And menses and dies, we have his lifespan given very precisely in not only years, but also months and days. Ixitus est, lies here. Now the dedicator, Antonia Saturnina Avia, his grandmother. And now comes the nice part, Memor brevis pietatis. That's very good Latin. Memor brevis, it's figured language. It's many things said, a big thing said in a few words. She remembers his pietas, that is, his family loyalty and love. But that pietas of his was brevis, because he died a young man. So I'm not quite sure how I would translate this, but I hope you understand how well put this is. And then another interesting little detail. On Itheiphelus in mutus apothniski neos. This is a verse from Menander or Menandros. Menandros gave many such adagious verses, and there is even, as you know, a collection of his adagia. But here, something typical has happened. The verse was cited wrongly, so the citation is degraded by inserting a word that makes the syntax easier. This is what happens when one cites by memory and isn't quite aware of the form of the sentence he cites. So the iambic verse, this time the iambic versification is quite beyond doubt, runs smoothly once we remove the word utos from line 14. On ithei philusin apothniski neos. Then on hoi theoi philusin apothniski neos. There's a perfect trimeter when you cite it correctly. Here, however, it was degraded for the sake of syntax. And that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Does anyone have a question? Yes, Elena? Do you want to take the mic?
Well, first, thank you very much for both presenters today. I have a short question for our colleague Voin. I'm curious about the Greek lines in these inscriptions. Do you have any idea who was able to understand these verses in the time when they were written and to which audience they were intended?
Well, you are here near that line that divides the Latin word from the Latin world from the Greek, near the Yirecek line. But in this case, if this is the case you are asking me about, I don't know. There are such cases even in Belgrade, and as I mentioned, there's a Greek epitaph in Belgrade, Singidulum, Singidulum. The question poses itself even more urgently there. Who could read a Greek epitaph there? I don't know.
Sorry. Thank you very much. I also have a question about the inscription with the miscarriage and the comment. First, my question: if I understand correctly, you think that this lady first had a miscarriage and at some later point died. Is it inconceivable that she died during the miscarriage or immediately afterwards due to the complications of the miscarriage? There are some examples in Greek epigraphy with tombstones of women who died during their miscarriage.
I must say, I also had that idea.
Okay.
I don't think anything can be, you see, it's heavily damaged.
Mm-hmm.
What made me ultimately go the other way is this word primo. Primo abortavit, first she miscarriage, and then, of course, and then she died. But then there is no real need for primo.
Okay.
This is why I fantasized about another incident in her life. But of course, nothing can be proved.
And if I may add a comment about what you said about the meter in this inscription, in the same one. I do not know much about Latin verse inscriptions, but there is growing evidence in Greek epigraphy about inscriptions that seem to have all the attributes of verse inscriptions. You have the convention of the talking monument, you have poetic language, you have poetic imagery, but they do not really fit into traditional meters. So I guess we should be talking more and more about rhythmic language rather than conventional meter, literary meter in some inscriptions of this sort.
Yes, I'm not sure that would really pay, because you see, as you say yourself, it's poetic language. It's the figures of speech. It's the images, the imagery. It's the conventional vocabulary. It's the cliches. all this comes from poetry. And then those small pieces of poetic language must contain the feature of what they come from, that is poetry, that is meter. But it's just it seems to me that in those pieces that I call, and others call it chromatica, meter is totally secondary. Meter happens to be here because it's because those fragments come from poetry. But I don't think any new meter or any new system of writing metric poetry was intended.
Thank you.
I think about a supplement and reading in the first line, partu and infelici.
So we are where we should be. It's the inscription and the photo. Partu infelici, where?
The beginning, that plu is maybe partu and inf can be, of course, infelici. So
Well, that's an idea. Thank you.
only an idea.
But thank you.
Other questions? Either for Slavica, perhaps? If not, I would like to thank Professor Nedeljković, and I would like to conclude the first session, and we will now have a lunch break and end the tour, guided tour. So join us in a few seconds.